Hello. In this video, we're going to talk about this area of the map. We're going to talk about this region and basically the left outline of the map. So everything on the left outline, all along this outline. Right, we'll start at this region right here. Notice the most prominent feature is this dinosaur bone in the ground. Right? So basically, many times you'll see flower pots hiding underneath it. Right here, basically, right? And also behind it, for instance, in this spot, which is like really difficult to see sometimes. But if you see them hiding behind it, right, they can be a little difficult to see if you don't physically go back there and check. Like also, for instance, right here. Pretty difficult to see if you don't physically go back there and check. Right, but most of the time you can see basically everything just by looking at it from here. Right, also, there's a total of 3 flower pots here, so if you see 4 flower pots, for instance, like this, it would be fake. Right? I've even seen flower pots hide behind this cactus, so you should definitely know that as well. Right, so this is basically it. But also, right here we have this step. Notice how there actually is a square of blocks right here. So this is actually a real square of blocks. Right, it doesn't usually happen, as we've seen. Right, one common spot is to see 3 melons in a row like this, so that would be fake. Now, if you do see a square of melons right here, this would be fake. Right? You shouldn't see a rectangle of blocks like this. But you also shouldn't see 3 in a row. This is another common spot to see. See 3 in a row right here. Just like that, that would be fake. Another thing is there is actually one real flower pot over here with this block pile. So just know there is, in fact, one real one. For these cakes, if you see a total of 3 cakes, that would be a fake one. For these cauldrons, you have 2 in a row on this side, and you only have 1 on this side. So if you do in fact see 2 cauldrons on this side, for instance like this, or like this, then it would be fake. Right? And if you see 3 in a row on this side, right, typically right here, that would be fake. Right? Sometimes you'll see one like right next to it, like this, sort of. That's basically it for the cauldrons. For these melons, basically the common spot is to find a melon in this hole right here. So if you see a melon like this, it's fake. That's typically all you see for the melons, right? If you do see 2 melons on top, that would be fake as well. For the hay bales, this hay bale stack is basically identical to the hay bale stack we went over when we talked about the center of the map, right? If you recall, if there's a hay bale in this specific spot, it forms the fish structure. That's how we know it's fake. That same exact thing we saw with the hay bale stack over here, right? With that hay bale stack in the center of the map. Right, if you see a hay bale go right here, it forms the fish structure. Right, just like that, you have that same pattern with this hay bale stack that we're talking about in this region of the map, right? Again, if you see a hay bale go right here, it forms the fish structure, so it's fake. The other deviations, just like before, is if you see 3 in a row, or if you see a square of hay bales, that would be fake. The other thing is that there should only be 1 hay bale on top of the stack, so if you see 2 hay bales, for instance like this, then that would be fake. And so that's basically it for the hay bale stack. Over here, right next to the dinosaur, we have this anvil stack. Notice the anvil stack basically does form the fish structure, as you can see. It does form the fish structure on the bottom layer, in addition with 2 anvils on top of the stack. So if you see 3 anvils on top of the stack, then you know it's fake. The other common spot you'll tend to see is you'll see sometimes an anvil hiding behind the stack in this specific spot. So that's basically it for the anvils. As for these furnaces, it's a total of 3 furnaces in a row, so it's pretty easy to memorize. Sometimes you'll find a furnace behind the stack, or on top of the stack. That's basically it for the furnaces. And so that's basically it for all the block piles in this region. Right? And so I think we've basically talked about everything. For these furnaces, it's pretty easy. It's just basically, you see a furnace right here. Sometimes you'll find infestors in this spot, so I would know that. Now along the edge of the map, it's common to find flower pots and other blocks on the edge of the map, so you should know that. Right? Another thing, notice there's a hole right here that a hider could hide at, typically a flower pot. Right? It doesn't usually happen, but it is a hole that exists in this universe, right? I like saying that. Okay, so now let's head along the outline of the map. For this hay bale stack, it's basically identical to the cauldron stack we went over when we talked about the front right corner. And also identical to the melon stack at the top of the dome, if you recall. You see, it's identical to that cauldron stack right here, right? You find a cauldron behind it, right here. It's fake. It's the same thing with the hay bale stack. Right, going back to the hay bale stack, it's the same exact structure. Right, if you have a hay bale behind the stack, specifically in this specific spot, just like with the cauldrons, that would be fake. Another thing you might see is a hay bale behind the stack, like that. Now this furnace stack is actually identical to the hay bale stack, it's just flipped around, right? As you see, these two hay bales are on the right, here the two furnaces are on the left. Right, but you can't actually have a furnace go here, right? It's replaced with a stone. So something you might see is a furnace behind the stack, right? Or a furnace to the left of the stack like this. That's pretty much it. The other thing is really common, not really common, but sometimes you'll encounter flower pots hiding behind these tall structures. Right, so there's a few spots you'll see like that, and of course, definitely expect hiders to be on the edge of the map, because that happens a lot. Right, there's actually a hole right here a hider can hide at as a flower pot. So that's pretty much it for now. Right, so now we have these anvils. The anvils is just basically a total of 3 anvils. So if you ever see it, for instance, symmetrical... Actually, wait, they only face the same direction. Basically, it's just a total of 3 anvils. So if you see an anvil there, it's more than 3, it'd be fake. For these TNTs, it's pretty easy structure. Notice it's like 2 diagonal on the bottom, 2 diagonal on the top, with a TNT behind the stack. So if you see, for instance, you see it squared off like this, that's fake. See it squared off on the top. Basically, you see 3 on the top, or 3 on the bottom right here. It's typically what you're looking for. Again, 3 on the top. That'd be fake. Sometimes you'll even see 3 diagonal like this. That would be fake as well. That's basically it. For these bookshelves, again, it's just basically 4 bookshelves. You see a square bookshelf, it's fake. Turns out bookshelf can actually become solid here. Just like that. You'll sometimes see that. Right. We'll skip this stuff. For these TNTs, basically, again, notice it's a square of TNTs with a single TNT next to it. So basically, it's if you see a TNT behind the stack, usually, right, TNT on the side of the stack right here, right, better to have 2 TNTs on top, that's how you know it's fake. That's basically it for the TNTs, right. For these furnaces, this is actually a common structure you'll see on the left side of the map. So we're going to actually encounter this structure a few more times on the left side when we go over it. Right now, basically 2 on top of each other, 2 in the front. Pretty common structure, so I would definitely just memorize it. So if you see any deviation from it, for instance, a square structure like this, if you ever see that structure we were basically going over in this video a lot, 2 on top, that's how you know it's fake. So this is a common structure you'll see on the left side of the map, so you just have to memorize that. 2 bookshelves, 2 flower pots. That's it. Right? Really easy to memorize. So if you see 3 flower pots, like that or that, it's fake. Sometimes you even have hiders behind it, like here. And so this is basically it for this video, right? We were talking about the left outline of the map, so it makes it really easy to just kind of memorize that stuff. And so that's basically it for this video. Right? We talked about basically the entire left outline of the map. So that's pretty much it.